Good morning. It is only 7:30 on Thursday the 11th, day 23, if I'm not mistaken. I did not do an update yesterday. Didn't really have an opportunity. I was in the snow most of the time, so I might miss something that happened over the past 48 hours. I think so much goes on out here that 24 hours is really all a guy like me can handle until I start forgetting things. But best I can recall, last update we did was shortly before going into Wrightwood and resupplying. So that's where I'll kind of start. That was a long day before yesterday. We did 21 trail miles, 21 total miles, only 17 trail miles, but that included a 2.5 mile road walk to get into town and then a 2 mile road walk to get back. There was a half a mile there that wasn't actually closed, but you had to walk further to get to a junction to get a hitch into town. So 4.5 miles of road walk plus plus being in town for a few hours makes 21 walking miles pretty good in my book. So long day, didn't get to camp until late. Set up to cowboy camp once we got there, and it was right at a junction, like kind of a saddle in between two mountains, and some clouds were coming up and spilling over, and everything was getting wet and condensation-y. So cowboy camping was obviously not the move, but we didn't realize that, me and two other guys, until after dinner when I was just getting ready to go to bed. So that kind of sucked. I had to take all my stuff. There was another place where we were eating dinner just a little ways away where I saw a nice little spot to camp. It was protected by some trees, and I went and set up there. No complaints. I think I actually stayed the driest of the bunch. Everybody else, everything was pretty wet. I had just the outside of my sleeping bag that was slightly damp, and that was not from where I actually camped. It's from laying my stuff out, getting ready to cowboy camp, and that cloud coming over top. So woke up about 3:15 the next morning, climbed Baden Powell, and that was a hell of a steep climb. For the bottom third or so, we were following the switchbacks, and then the boot track went straight up the hill, and cutting your own footprints in the snow is not a lot of fun. So we just followed the boot track, and that was fine, but it was really, really steep. So that kind of sucked, but type 2 fun. We got to the top. It was beautiful. A couple in our crew were kind of bummed out about the way up, pretty exhausted. But we continued. We didn't spend much time up there because it was cold and windy, but the views were absolutely gorgeous. Yesterday was the third day in a row, and today looks like it's probably the fourth. I don't know. Let's walk over here and see. That LA has had clouds over it, so allegedly, actually, it's just smoggy, not actually cloudy. But this is out to the west. Oh no, there are clouds. This is out to the west. That's the direction of LA and the ocean, the Pacific, in case that wasn't clear. So great view of clouds, and I never thought I'd say this, but would have been nice if there were less clouds for, at least a day of it, so you could kind of see the ground and the landscape out there. But the clouds are pretty nonetheless. It looks like the mountains are little islands poking up out of them, so I guess I'll try not to complain too much. So we did that. There were a couple of sketchy parts coming down. Got to self-arrest a couple of times. Both were, I wouldn't have fallen had it been a really steep fallout, but it wasn't terribly steep, so I was a little riskier with my footsteps. not using 3 points of contact as I'm moving down and doing kind of a little bit of a slide that just got carried away. But got some practice self-arresting, so that's good, I suppose. And yesterday we did, I think, 10 miles before lunch, and starting at 4 a.m., 10 miles took us until about 12:30, maybe noon, something like that. But we found this little campground called Little Jimmy's and hung out there for a couple hours. Hung out in the sun. A couple of people in our group took a nap and rested up a bit, and then continued. There was some talk of doing the section we're on right now last night, and then we thought we were through the thick of the snow after lunch, and I guess we were. It wasn't continuous after that, but it was on and off, and there were a couple of pretty sketchy parts that slowed us down, took us a while. So 4 of the 5 of us were absolutely good with stopping at the campground that we stopped at, which was 15.2 miles in from where we started. There was one road runner who's normally our chief planner, so we're gonna have to see who picks up the slack there. She's got her boyfriend coming to town. She's from Canada, and he's down in San Francisco anyways for work, and that's why this road is closed. Rock slides. So we're on Highway 2. I'll talk about that in a minute while we're doing a road walk. But she's taking a 0 with him, I believe, on Saturday. So it's Thursday, so just a couple days from now. So she's trying to beat feet, get as far in front of us as she can. So we're probably just gonna Nero on Saturday at LA RV Resort, formerly Acton KOA. And she's gonna take a full 0 with her boyfriend and then try and catch up with us. So she's motivated to zoom past, get some of those miles now while she's feeling it. So yeah, camp last night, I was gonna do an update, or at least the thought crossed my mind. And I got my tent up, or my tarp and bivvy. I made my dinner and ate it. And I said, nope, I'm going to bed. So that's where we're at. So now this morning we had about 1 mile of trail to go. There was a little bit of snow, but nothing super sketchy, and it's early enough that the snow's in really good condition. So I did not have to put my micro spikes on. And then we got to the frog closure. So that's why I'm on the road. I don't even count it really as a closure and an alternate. It technically is, but it's been closed for at least like the past 6 years. The yellow-legged mountain frog, or something of that nature, is an endangered species, and there's a habitat of them on a section of the PCT. So luckily it's a section where Highway 2 parallels, it crosses over a ton. It actually kind of reminds me of Skyline Drive in Virginia and Shenandoah, how you're just crossing the road, and now we're on this side, crossing the road, now we're on this side, that kind of thing. But I think it's 4 miles of trail that's closed, maybe like 4.5, 5 mile road walk. So not too shabby. We'll be back on the trail in no time. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Sorry for no update yesterday, but there really just wasn't a time where I didn't need both hands. Had my micro spikes on most of the day, had my ice axe in my hand a good chunk of it. And when you're traversing over snow, you just don't have an extra phone or an extra hand to hold your phone. So here we are. Game plan going forward. I think we're gonna try to get about between 20 and 25 miles today and tomorrow. If we can average 22.5, that leaves us with 10 miles going in to Acton on Saturday. And less would be fine, but I think the general group consensus is we want a Nero there, or at least take a short rest day, not a full 0. So get up early Saturday morning, get in hopefully before 10 o'clock or so, and then hang out, rest all day on Saturday. Then depending on how we're feeling, either do a full day or a partial day on Sunday. Either get an early start if we're feeling up to it, or sleep in a little bit and kind of take a double Nero instead of a single zero. So we'll see. So that's the game plan, and I am really glad that I've got my insoles coming there. My insoles are not loving. They were already deteriorating, and then they have not been a big fan of wet, dry, wring them out, wet, dry. This is what we're looking at. I guess it's not a terrible view in the world, but compared to the treats that I've been given so far on this trip, it seems kind of drab, but it's all good. Just a few miles and we're back on trail, and yeah, moving forward, always progress. So I think that's all I got for you today. So until next time. Good morning. It is 7:24 on Friday the 12th. I think that makes it, I don't know, around day 24. 3 weeks and a couple of days, something like that. And we are off to a pretty good start this morning. Got started at 6:10 a.m. Normally aim for getting out between 6 and 6:30, so 6:10 is not too shabby. Yesterday was it wasn't a bad day, but it just kind of felt like it dragged on a bit. Didn't make as many early miles as I was hoping for. And then the afternoon was kind of cruisy, but the scene, it just wasn't as scenic as we are sometimes. But it started out really nice. There was some pretty good up and down early on once we got off of that road walk. But it was at least nice and pretty. It was down, we were kind of in a valley, and it was like this really old pine forest. Speaking of forest, let's take a quick peek at what we got going on today. So, not too bad of views. I'm not gonna complain. But yeah, yesterday it wasn't bad. It was just road walk, which was kind of boring, and then some pretty good up and down, which was a little bit exhausting, but at least it was nice views. And then in the afternoon after lunch, most of the day was just kind of trudging along, some down, some up, nothing too difficult, just not a ton of views. Nothing actually super memorable, but we had a great campsite last night. Got to set up with without the tarp, just the bivvy, which I always enjoy because that's nice and quick and easy. And we're kind of walking along this ridge here. So here's the other side that you couldn't see from before, and you can just see forever. Got a little bit of a haze out there, but you can still see, I don't know, a lot of miles. So but game plan for today, I'm gonna do everything I can to get 10 by 10. Not sure if that's gonna happen. I did just spend about 20 minutes standing still. I had some service up at the top of the hill and had some logistics issues going on. I'll try to keep the sun behind my head so it doesn't lens flare like crazy. Here we go. So turns out that when you ship something that has a lithium ion battery, it's got to go on the ground. It can't go in an airplane, which makes sense. But the downside about that is that it takes longer. So my package that USPS, since it's priority mail, said was going to be delivered on the 10th, which was 2 days ago, just left Des Moines, Iowa, and it's got to travel by truck, and it just left yesterday morning. So the odds of it making it from Des Moines, Iowa to LA area and then to Acton for delivery is probably not very good. Which means if it was just my food, I'd say screw it, I'll leave it. Not stopping for that, but I've got another power bank because my phone was having some battery issues. I've got some pills and medicines in there, and some repair tape. You know, a few odds and ends that really would like to not do without if I can avoid it. So my brother, who, good God, man, he's taking care of a ton of the logistics for me. So thank you a ton for that, Tim. But he's going to call USPS, see what we can do about potentially getting that rerouted during transit, and see if we can send it up a stop ahead. And then I just need to hitch into Acton or Agua Dulce and find a place to buy enough groceries to get me to Hikertown, which is just like 3 days or so. So not too bad. So one way or another, we're going to figure it out. But if they can't reroute it, I would not want to leave that box just sitting there. So I may need to, in that circumstance, stay in Acton for a couple of days, which would really suck. You know, the initial game plan is to get to Acton tomorrow morning, leave ourselves about 8 to 10 miles, take a Nero tomorrow, rest up, and then leave Sunday, maybe early, maybe not, but still do a decent day, maybe not a full day, but like 15 miles at least on Sunday. And not sure if that's going to be in the cards for old Danny Boy if I gotta wait for a package. But logistics on trail is a part that, you know, you don't really think about a ton. Maybe a little bit coming out here, you know, resupply this, that, the other. But when things don't work out to your timeline and you're trying to make it 2,600 miles to Canada before the snow starts, it kind of makes things a little tricky sometimes. Like my backpack, I don't think I've talked about this yet, but it's the interior liner. I guess it's not really a liner, but it's a laminate backing to the fabric is coming off on part of my pack, which is way earlier than it should do that. It's kind of right in between my shoulder blades, and I think it's just from the diagonal stress that's put on it when I only have one shoulder strap on, which I do a lot of times if I'm grabbing something out of the back pocket or something like that, which should be something that the pack should be able to do. But I reached out to Light AF, and they're gonna make me a new pack out of identical pack, just out of a new material. Instead of black, it's gray. Instead of Ultra 2.0, it's gonna be Ultra X200, which I think is the same fabric, but the laminate backing is a little bit thicker and hardier, and it's got an X grid, so it's got reinforcement diagonally, which should help keep the fabric from stretching diagonally, which I believe is the root of the trouble with the delamination I've been seeing. But just logistics with that, like getting something to somebody who's a moving target, trying to make sure it's there in time, you know, all of those things are just a little bit tricky. But the good news is that the next time I see a post office, I get to send these microspikes and this ice axe about 300 miles forward, all the way up to Kennedy Meadows South, where I'll pick them up going into the Sierras, because we should be done with snow travel, which is freaking fantastic. So snow travel is kind of a mixed bag for me. I kind of enjoy it. It's nice to mix it up, do things just a bit differently. It's kind of fun sliding around in the snow sometimes, but it's absolutely exhausting compared to normal just hiking a nice dry trail. It'll beat you up real quick. I think that's part of why I was a little bit down yesterday. Not down, just not as excited as I am sometimes, as we slept in a little bit to try and recover, and I think that was a good move. But I think I was still just feeling a bit tired, a bit worn out from the big day we had before. But I think that's about all I got for you today. So big day today, 24 miles, Nero tomorrow, and hopefully that's the only Nero I have to take. But that is out of my hands, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. As my grandpa would say, I'm going to put that into non-think. We'll figure that out when we need to. Until next time.